Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the Couples Academy show. My name is Roland, and we have Jewel and the fabulous Mr. Walter Jennings with us on this morning. And hey, listen, we hope you guys are enjoying your spring break. We are spring breaking it right now, and we hope that everyone is enjoying it. But we're happy to see you guys. How are you doing, Jewel? How are you doing, Walter?
I'm doing well. Good morning. Good morning, gentlemen.
Doing excellent, doing excellent. Enjoying this weather and enjoying this time. So, absolutely.
Great, great, great. Hey, listen, before we get started, we want to make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you let everyone know that we are here. We are here to serve you. So the best way that we can serve you is for you to be here and then go and tell someone else, because there's enough room for all of us, and all of us at some point or another need some help. So let everyone know that we are here. And we're so happy. Listen, we're going to be talking about something that I think is very sensitive, but I also think is very important, and sometimes can be like a silent killer, if you would. And we're talking about how insecurity leads to infidelity. Now we know that infidelity within itself is already devastating. It's already a life-changing experience and transformation. But to compound that with our own insecurities and our own inadequacies only make matters that much worse. And we can find that infidelity is contributed by something. There's a root cause of infidelity. It comes from somewhere. And sometimes insecurities or inadequacies is the root cause to infidelity. And so what is low self-esteem? Low self-esteem is one of those things that it's rooted in us at some point of our lives, whether it's peer pressure when we were in high school, or feeling like we didn't make the football team or the basketball team or the cheerleading squad or the dance team. But somewhere in our lives, we have run into this thing called low self-esteem. And what is low self-esteem? Low self-esteem is a low self-evaluation of ourselves, how we look at ourselves. And so when we don't see ourselves in a manner or in a way that uplifts us up, and if we are in the environment that also doesn't lift us up, then we start to feel self-doubt. We start to feel like we're less worthy to others, and that is a root cause of infidelity. We'll find ways to go into giving ourselves a reason to find ourselves giving infractions. What you guys think about that?
Sorry, my mute was off. I could hear echo, but there is nothing that you said that was not correct, because you look at the clients that we have, and when we talk to them and we talk about low self-esteem and how the partner never knew that their spouse felt that way, and it was something that was just never talked about. They feel as though it made them less of a woman or less of a man. So it's really important that those type of conversations need to be had beforehand, because they're very detrimental to your marriage.
Yeah, and I was going to say, Roland, that you hit some things right on the head when you talked about in our earlier developmental stages, right? We oftentimes find ourselves trying to fit within these various boxes of society, whether it be within our family dynamic and our home and some of the culture that we observe there, or when it comes to even in our school, if it's athletics and if it's even the band or different things of that nature. And so there is a great saying that comparison is the enemy of uniqueness. And so
Oh,
the challenge is, right, is that when we don't necessarily fit into these spaces, when we have family members who it's like, man, I'm a little different. I don't really take to some of the things that my family takes to. I don't really find myself as adept in school to some of the activities that people that look like me are into. And then
mhm.
that's where a lot of times that low self-esteem can creep in, and you have this internal war that's going on, right? And so the way that people will often try to balance and counteract that is really to betray themselves. And this leads into that tree of life that we talk about in Foundry, where you're digging up the roots of your integrity, and that comes out with the lack of authenticity in the way that you show up in the world.
If I had a mic, I would just drop it, because you just said a mouthful, And you are absolutely you are absolutely right, man. And the sad thing is we don't give ourselves enough credit for who we are. We have to understand that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Mm-hmm. And a long time ago, when I realized that there's no other Roland but me, oh, it opened up so many doors, right? But for a long period of time, I didn't understand that. I didn't understand for myself the value of who I am as a person. And that's the other thing. That's the flip side of things, because we devalue ourselves by holding on to insecurities and inadequacies that we have, because we don't give ourselves a chance to grow. We don't give ourselves a chance to learn. We don't give ourselves a chance to be authentically who we were created to be. And
But
so,
I was just going to say, but then as adults and as parents, we should look at that now when we're raising our own children, is because we want our children to be just like us. You know, men want their boys to be that powerhouse football player or that baseball player or that bass player or whatever the situation may be. You know, the women, we want our girls to be, you know, prima donnas, or we want them to be princesses, which they are, but let them be them in them own selves and not behind someone else, you know, because that's where it starts. You know, you start at a young age trying to mold a child the way you want them to be molded. Yes, now I get it as far as, you know, the spiritually and, you know, mentally, but as far as their character and who they are, if they don't want to do certain, let them do what makes them happy, because what's going to make them happy is what they're going to pour more into. When you say, no, don't do that, that's not going to get you anywhere in life, you know, now you're just totally dismissing what they find important in their life. So then you build up all this self-esteem, and it's just, it's like a ticking time bomb when you get older.
You are absolutely right. The sad side of this is the fact, like as you said, to your point, that we as adults, as parents, we try to live our dreams through our children. Mm-hmm. So because we didn't meet our dreams, we see that we're getting older, and those dreams may not ever be met. Now we're pushing our children so hard to play basketball when they really like tennis. And we won't support them in playing tennis because we didn't reach our full potential playing basketball. And now we have our children doing things that they never desired to do. And now you have untapped potential and unfulfilled dreams in a child that wanted to do one thing, but because we failed to do our thing as adults or as children growing up. Now we have raised another generation of unfulfilled dreams or dreams deferred. So you make an absolutely great point. Hey, listen, we're just getting into this. We're talking about how insecurity leads to infidelity. We're going to go to a quick commercial break, and we're going to be right back. Well, welcome back, folks. We're having a little technical difficulty, but that's okay. The show is still going on. We're going to make things happen. We will not let things hold us down. So we're going to work this thing. But listen, we're talking about how insecurity leads to infidelity. And one of the ways that it leads to infidelity is, the first thing is seeking validation. Seeking validation. So what does that look like? When I have low self-esteem and I am looking to gain access to who I am, I'm going to look outside of my marriage, outside of my relationship. I'm going to look outside to the people that I feel like is going to validate who I am as a person, validate who I am as a man or as a woman. And instead of internalizing and going into my own safe haven, which is my spouse, which is my household, I'm looking for validation outside of the house. So I'm going to do things and present myself. I'm going to go to the water fountain instead of being, accidentally at the water fountain to look for validation because I have a new tie on, or a new suit on, or a new dress on, or my new heels, or I have a new bag. We find so many other things to validate us, and we're looking for validation from other people to confirm us being validated by our things. Why? Because we have low self-esteem, and our insecurities say that we have to have these things in order to be seen or to be somebody. What you say, Walter?
Yeah, I was going to say, Roland, that's spot on. And how I would define validation is it is yielding the presence of your power to someone else. So it's the power that you have. You are essentially relinquishing that to something or someone else. And usually it does start with a something. There is something, there are either qualities, there are attributes, there are certain things that you attribute as this is important. And it may not necessarily be something that you define within you. You have assigned a certain value to it. And again, this is based on your, as Danielle likes to call it, your marinade and the culture that you come from, what you see in your family values. So that's oftentimes where our value comes from. And so we assign a value to certain things, right? And then we relinquish that value, and when we see it in other people. So now, as you mentioned, we are looking for the presence of our power in other people. If this person can confirm that I am this, if this person says that I am so-and-so, that I am more likely to believe that than I am to believe when I look in the mirror and say it to myself. And that is absolutely a setup for you to live a life of codependency, for you to be in a place where you never feel good enough, where your self-esteem is completely trampled because it's at the whim of other people and not within your own hands.
And all I have to say is this is where it comes in for you to know your partner's love language. Because if they need validation, that's affirmed. They need that affirmation. Words of affirmation is what motivates them. And if you don't know that that's something that your spouse needs and you're not giving it to them, then it's very easy for them to seek it from someone else. And half of the time, they may not even know that that's their love language, but they know it's something that's missing in their life. And when it's given to them, it's that feeling that they get that says, this is the peace that I want. This is what I need. And this is where you have to learn how to communicate with your spouse and say, my love language is affirmation. I need you to affirm me.
That leads us to the next point that you could take, Jewel. And it is the fear of rejection. The fear of rejection. So when we're talking about the fear of rejection, nobody wants to be rejected. We all want to be accepted. But to your point, just not knowing your spouse's love language and understanding who they are. And that's why you need to study your spouse so that they won't feel that way and they won't have a pass to go out to not be rejected by others because we're rejecting them at home. We have to understand who they are. But let me let you take it away, Jewel. The fear of rejection.
Rejection is a hurt piece. And it's like we said before, I think a lot of it starts from when we are children and feeling rejected when we have an opinion or when we have a thought or there's something that we want to do. And now all of a sudden we're just being shut down in every direction. That stays with a child. And that child now becomes a man or a woman. And now that they're living this life, and, they figure, I've been rejected all my life. I'm doing everything that I can do to give things to me. That's good. But now when you get in a relationship and you want to do something, you want to say something, you want to be something, and your spouse is rejecting everything that you have to say. They're rejecting your touch. They're rejecting your words. They're rejecting, how you live. They're just everything about, and it may not even be intentional. But just that fear of not being able to satisfy someone, that fear of, again, I'm not enough. Those are fears that people live with, but they don't talk about. What happened to, we date and we find out all the good stuff about each other, but do we sit down and talk about the things that frighten us? Do we sit down and talk about the things that's going to impair our relationship if we don't have these things? Fear is something that can make or break anyone. And if you can't control it, it will control you.
Yeah, and I was going to chime in on that. And Jewel, I think that, again, when it comes to rejection as well, rejection also can lead to resilience. So just like there are some really painful things that can actually be good for you. But this is, again, the power of not allowing other people to control your destiny and to really have power in the narrative of yourself. And so when it comes to, again, how I see myself is not necessarily going to be the way the world is always going to see and accept me. But the question becomes, what do I believe about me? And part of the challenge and the thing with rejection that can be so devastating is that it is often a confirmation of the insecurity that we have inside of us. It is the worst case scenario that we have about ourselves. And what we're getting when we get rejection often is a validation of what some of my greatest fears are about myself. But a lot of times those things come often as a way to build us up, so that we can fight through to really push for the things that we want to accomplish in life. You're not going to necessarily get every job that you apply for. You're not going to necessarily be the starter of the team or the first line. Sometimes it's going to take some work, work ethic to build to that place to get to where it is that we want to go. And Jewel, you made a great point too, that it's not always intentional in a relationship. Sometimes that rejection is because of sometimes the way that our partner is feeling. And we've got to be able to handle that in a mature way, that we are not attributing that to necessarily ourselves, that it may be, hey, this person is feeling the way that they're feeling. It is not an indictment against me as an individual, or our relationship, that it just may be where we are right now.
Man, Walter, I love you. You see the good in everything. I mean, I can't believe, man, the way you just articulate things, you could take a bad thing and see the good in it and make it work and make it mesh. And that's the thing that we don't do. We have the ability to do that, but we will stay stuck on the side of negativity and not find the positive out of that negativity to push on. Hey, listen, we're going to try this again. We're going to a commercial break, and we're going to be right back. We're talking about how insecurity leads to infidelity, and we're having a great conversation. We'll see you back in just a minute.
Hey family, Hassani and Danielle here, and I want to tell you about the Phoenix Awards Gala happening on October 7th, 2023. Couples Academy is hosting its first annual Phoenix Awards Gala, a celebration of perseverance, patience, and persistence, focused on couples who have endured and overcome significant hardships in their marriages.
Nominees of this prestigious award will have come to the brink of destruction in their marriage without giving up, and are living a testimony to what is possible when two stand as one.
This is no ordinary gala. We are honoring 5 of the most resilient couples across the U.S. and abroad. And here's the most exciting part. You get to pick our nominees. And there's more. Wear your most exquisite gowns and black tie ensembles and prepare for a 50-foot red carpet, cocktail reception, dinner, live music, and dancing. We're going to raise the roof and the standard for marriages on October 7th, and we want you to be there.
For tickets, go to couplesacademy.org/events.
Well, welcome back, folks. Welcome back. Hey, listen, we're talking about the gala coming up in October, October 7th. I'm telling you all, you better get yourselves ready. You better get your black tuxedo, your gown, your stilettos, whatever you wear, whatever you ladies wear, your hair done, what y'all call it, your face beat, or whatever it is. Hey, listen, we do things first class. We are excited about it. It's going to be a phenomenal night. We are celebrating marriages, all things marriage. And contrary to popular belief, contrary to what the world says, marriage is a beautiful thing. And when you have the right person in your life, you are doing the right thing. I'm telling you, you don't want to miss it. You want to be there unless you're going to hear about it. I prefer for you to be in the building. You have more than enough time. Get your ticket, get your hotel room, get your travel plans together. Let that be the thing that kind of catapults you off going into the new year. October's towards the end of the year. Let's do it. Let's do it right. Let's have a great time. We're looking forward to it. We also have Last Chance Weekend coming up in the next couple of weeks. Listen, it is the most powerful and transformational gift that you can give yourself. The investment that you can give your marriage. We invest in so many things. We invest in our cars, in our houses, in our clothes, but we fail to invest in our marriages. And that's one of the biggest things, the biggest investments that we have that's worth more than any other thing that we have. So I encourage you, if you are needing help, please call us, reach out to us. We want to see you in the building. Folks are signing up now. We want to see you here. The number is at the bottom of the screen. Make sure you give us a call. Okay. Hey, let's hit it. We're talking about how insecurity leads to infidelity. And one of the other things is having a lack of boundaries. Having a lack of boundaries. You know, we talk about it that green light, yellow light, red light type of boundary thing. You know, that green light says, "Oh yeah, I'm all in." You know, it's a go. Let's go ahead and do this thing. You at the water fountain and you want to continue to meet at the water fountain. You know, that yellow light says, "Let's pause. I'm kind of fixed in between. Like I might do it or I might not." Or as I used to say, I'm going to push the envelope to see how far I can get away with. And then they have that red light that says, "Listen, don't even come my way. We're not doing this." Why? Because I have set up boundaries around myself, around my marriage. And we think that as men or as even as women, I'm going to protect my wife. I'm going to protect my husband if somebody braces up to them, if I have to get into a fight. But protection goes far beyond that. Protection goes, I'm going to protect her heart. I'm going to protect his mind. I'm going to protect his feelings. And how do we do that? We have to create boundaries that people know. Don't even try coming in my DM. Don't even try to slip me no number. I am not for it. You will get your feelings hurt if you come this way with that foolishness. Right. And so we have to set the boundaries up, and people have to know that so that we don't get ourselves caught up in infidelity. What you say about that,
Roland? And then you get to the point where you don't even have to say anything. I have such a persona where a look on my face is going to tell you I'm not trying to hear it.
Yeah.
That body language is going to be like, keep it moving. You know what I'm saying? So you don't even have to open your mouth. But if you have a little crack that is shown that somebody can step in there, stay in there. And you were talking about the water fountain. Okay, you know that I go to the water fountain at a certain time of day, and this person just happens to be coming to buy. Ding, ding, ding. Stop going.
right?
Yeah.
Just, whatever. But yeah, you build those boundaries and you make them stack, because if you wouldn't do something with your spouse with you, then you don't do it when they're not with you.
Yeah,
It's just as
absolutely.
simple as that.
Yeah, this is about having standards. And standards ideally start even before you get into your marriage and into your relationship. So just as Jewel was mentioning, are we even having these conversations with our spouses before we get married about what their values are? The scripture says, right, that a person without values is like a city without a wall. Now, thinking of that in ancient times, right, what that means is that anything goes, but it also means that you're vulnerable. And so we have to be careful when we come into relationships that when we haven't established our standards and our values and our boundaries, eventually what happens is we begin to acquiesce or take on the qualities of the person that we're in a relationship with, and we don't even know ourselves anymore. And that allows us to be susceptible a lot of times to the world, the workplace, our social settings, our friends. And so now we become these chameleons in a bad way, where whatever setting we're in, we're adapting to however everyone else is moving. And that becomes a detriment to our marriage and to our relationships. So it is imperative that we remember that we have to abide by our values and our standards wherever we are.
And those are boundaries and standards that you guys put together. Because I can have my boundaries and standards, he can have his boundaries and standards, but if they don't coincide, then something's going on. So you take yours, you take his, and then y'all talk about them, and y'all set the standards and boundaries for your marriage, not just for you individually.
Yes, Ju, I'm thinking about the shirt that you and Gonzalez had done. You have to protect your yes with a bunch of no's. And it has to be, we have to create our marriages. We have to create our values and our morals like Fort Knox. We have to make sure it has the top-notch security around it, because if anybody thinks, they have people that literally seek out to see who they can pick on. Right. And they literally looking at your disposition. Oh, she looked like she going through something. Oh, he looked like he's not being taken care of at home. And then what happens, because we let our guards down, because we're not sticking to our core values and morals for ourselves, then we invite that person in unknowingly that they're sitting in the cut waiting. That's their whole goal mission, to obtain your attention away from your spouse. And so we have to be aware. We have to be conscious. We have to make sure that we understand that the enemy is playing for keeps, and we have to not give them a reason to keep us. Okay.
And that's outside people as well as inside people. That could be family.
Absolutely. Yeah, right. Absolutely. And it could be work. It could be so many things. Again, we have to set the boundaries. We have to put up the walls. We have to make sure that we are on the same page and understand that we're on the same team. Okay. Now we're talking about coping mechanisms, how some people try to use low self-esteem as a coping mechanism to get the attention of others. Now, you may say, now, how do they do that? Well, if I act lowly, if I act like, I'm alone and I'm not being taken care of, what is that going to say? That's going to signify, as I just mentioned, to someone that say, oh, I can come in and soothe you. I can come in and rub your head and rub your back to make sure that you have what you need. I see you working hard, man. I see how she's treating you, and I could come in and that's what happens. The devil is not going to send somebody that we don't like or not our appetite that appeases us. He's going to send just what you like at the right time when he knows that it's going to be detrimental to your marriage. So he's going to be tall, dark, and handsome if that's what you like. She's going to look like a Coke bottle if that's what you like. She's going to be everything that you want. She's going to say the right things. He's going to drive the right car. He's going to pay for lunch. Everything that you think you want is what's going to come, because why? We are being lowly and we're presenting ourselves in a way to draw attention to ourselves away outside of our spouses.
But that person is giving you that attention. They're giving you what you're missing. And that's all it is. That may not even be them as an individual. They may not really be a listening ear. They may not be as soft-spoken. They may not be as well-dressed. But because of the fact that you're in that woe is me state, this is what I'm not getting, this is what I don't see, they're going to become what you want. So that's what you see, just to get you to the other side. And then you have that person that's listening to you. You have that person that, is dressing well. You got that man that's driving that fine car, and then you find out it's not even his. Mm-hmm. She borrowed those clothes from her girlfriend.
Mm-hmm. Hey, listen, we it's a real thing, and we have to understand that we have to be on guard. We have to be on high alert at all times, and we cannot let our guard down. And I want you to close us out, Walter, with this one, how we sometimes self-sabotage our marriages by walking in low self-esteem. We will do things purposefully to get our spouses to leave because we're not man enough or woman enough to take on the responsibility to do the work that we have to do to maintain a marriage. So talk about that for just a moment and close us on out.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is actually a continuation of what we just talked about when it comes to looking at infidelity as a coping mechanism. And what we don't want to say, but really it is likened to it, but it's almost like an addiction. It's almost like, alcohol or drinking or something where we're using to actually soothe ourselves. But just as Jewel mentioned, it ultimately leads to our own destruction. And a lot of times with the self-sabotage, it is because we do not believe that we are worthy of the good thing that we have. We are not worthy of the spouse that we have, but it also leads to the fact that we're not willing to do the work, and marriage is work. There's a great saying that Hassani says that I love. He says, marriage is work, marriage is hard, divorce is hard. Choose your hard. So you get to choose your heart. And so sabotaging isn't going to be a long-term solution for whatever you're accomplishing, because one thing you learn about life is that if you don't learn the lessons will come back around in different faces or in different jobs or in different experiences. You will not get away from the lessons that life is trying to teach you and what it is that you are supposed to be doing. So the effort to self-sabotage ultimately ends up making us expend more energy in that than usually the effort that it takes to actually make the relationship work, to actually believe the things that are true about us, for us to devote the time and the energy into embracing who we genuinely and truly are.
Absolutely. Hey, Walter, you close us out on a high note. Listen, enjoy your spring break. We will see you again on tomorrow. We're talking about how insecurity leads to infidelity. It's a real thing. We love you guys. We'll see you on tomorrow.